There are three main criterion for the selection committee to work with regarding the Plant City Photo Archives Heritage Award. First, someone who has had a long-standing impact of success in our area. Second, someone who has contributed to heritage and preservation efforts. And third, someone who is generally beloved by the greater Plant City community. I've had the privilege of conducting some biographical interviews of some great people as part of our Heritage Awards here at Plant City Photo Archives. And part of the joy for me has been trying to understand and learn from these people's lives. What is it that set them apart? What helped to create a D.E. Bailey, or a Jim Redmond, or a Robert Trinkle? And tonight's recipient. One of the things I've learned is that while they're all wonderful people, it is shocking how different they are from each other. They share greatness and accomplishment, but like fingerprints, they are undeniably unique. How does a life of accomplishment and influence begin? When someone is destined to be a leader, is it somehow stamped upon their life from the beginning? When someone is to wind up being honored in a place and time like this, is there some sign for us subtly there from their childhood? I think we all want to know. It was 1929 when Brian McCain Smith Sr. and wife Rosalie had their first of two boys. Mac arrived with great fanfare, and some pretty good pictures of his happy demeanor were snapped. Mac was born in Jacksonville and moved with his family to Plant City at age 4. His mother was a school teacher, and his father was soon to be in the car business in the area. As a young man, he was a good student, and soon moved up a grade and joined into what was to be the graduating class of 1946. He graduated in the top 10% of his class and was also an Eagle Scout. In high school, he played football, basketball, and was a first-string baseball player. But like many of his generation, those school years were also war years, and soon on the heels of graduation, he put his future education and military service together. The military offering at that time was 2 years college, 3 years of flight training, and then duty. Then return to finish school. So in 1948, after 2 years at University of Florida, Mac began some flight training and duty, and then returned to finish school. So in 1948, after 2 years at UF, Mac began some serious and very stressful training in Pensacola. He earned his wings in 1950 and got shipped up north. Things got serious when Mac met Marion Cook on a blind date. He says he had a tough hill to climb with Cookie's family, for he had 3 strikes against him. 1, he was in the military and a war was on. 2, he was a Southerner. And 3, his father was a used car dealer. Quote, "I would have been dead in the water if it wasn't for her mother," he says. But the wedding went on, and a young military family was begun. Fortunately, during the Korean War, he was flying the North Atlantic on sub-search duty. Mac eventually wound up trained and qualified to fly most any multi-engine prop plane there was, over 6,000 flight hours, and he was an instructor on the Super Connie. Eventually, there was a highly scrutinized incident where Mac landed a Super Connie with the wheels up, and where he was eventually exonerated. This somehow helped in a duty extension, and his assignment to fly a 4-star Navy admiral around Italy, and this duty suited him enough to remain active until 1958. He continued to serve in the reserves until 1972, retiring as a lieutenant commander. In 1958, Mac came home with his wife and 3 daughters and joined his father in the car business. First on Hain Street, where Paradise Fruit Company is now, with auto brands Nash and Rambler and American Motors, which had a whopping 3% of the market. This was a tough row to hoe, and as Mac said, quote, "You have to be a salesman," end quote. And of course, there were a whole lot of used cars. The business relocated to South Collins in 1964, and Frank Wiener's Paradise Fruit Company expanded onto the Smith property. Now we reach one of those pivotal moments in a young man's life. Mac said to me when I asked him, were there any keystone moments that stood out for him? He said, quote, "You know, anything you do in life, you always need someone to push you along. For me in Plant City, that man was Frank Wiener," end quote. While president of the Plant City Kiwanis Club, Mac went on a trip to Jacksonville, and he met gubernatorial candidate Hayden Burns. Mac was excited to help and manage his campaign in Plant City. Burns' success, Mac's rising prominence in the community, and his military aviation background all combined to generate Mac's being appointed to the Hillsborough County Aviation Authority in 1965. At this time, the Tampa airport was being expanded, and Mac was directly involved in supporting the expansion and working with the authority at this pivotal time. When completed, the Tampa airport became a nationwide flagship of airport design. In the automobile world, Mac eventually became the president of the Florida Automobile Dealers Association, chairman of the National Jeep Dealers Advisory Board, and somehow he still kept Plant City strawberries in the minds of people all over the automobile world. He remained a committed family man with 3 adoring daughters and a healthy church life. He steadily supported every major aspect of the Plant City community. Some of his resume features are: he was the founding president of the Walden Lake Country Club, bank board positions with Barnett, First Florida, and currently Hillsborough Bank, past president and director of the Florida Strawberry Festival, Plant City Citizen of the Year, trustee of Tampa Bay History Center, a member of the local EHHS, director of Plant City Chamber of Commerce, a board member of the Tampa Sports Authority, and a great sports enthusiast, and part of the task force to assess USF's football program Genesis. Advisory committee member and staunch supporter of our Plant City Photo Archives, Incorporated. He's a founding president of the Plant City Armed Forces Memorials Foundation, Incorporated. I could easily go on. When I was interviewing him, it was almost impossible to write fast enough to catch it all. Betty Watkins, when awarding Mac the Citizen of the Year award in 1984, said of him, quote, "Mac is a natural leader. His quiet and subtle ways cause his peers to invite him to be their leader in almost every organization in which he has participated," end quote. And like all great leaders, he leads by saying, "Follow me." And people do. And they, like me, are glad to be with him.